Welcome back to The Report. Our next conversation examines a groundbreaking shift in the search for extraterrestrial life. For decades, scientists in this field have been largely focused on finding biosignatures, signs of life, on distant planets. But a recent study takes a dramatically different approach. It proposes a radical shift in how we search for life beyond Earth. Now, this study, published in Popular Mechanics, suggests that advanced alien civilizations, rather than leaving behind subtle chemical traces, might have left a far more permanent mark: the very structure of planetary systems themselves. Here to weigh in on this discussion is Professor John Hartnett. Dr. Hartnett is an Australian physicist and cosmologist with a PhD in physics from the University of Western Australia. He's contributed to over 200 published research papers and books. He retired from academia in 2016 and is now focusing and speaking on biblical creation, astrophysics, and cosmology. Dr. Hartnett, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, David.
You know, it's great to have you on, and this study is very particularly interesting. It proposes that alien civilizations may have already terraformed planets and spread life via panspermia. We'll get into that in a second. What are your initial thoughts on this claim, and what scientific evidence is being presented to support this?
Well, second part first, actually no scientific evidence is being presented to support it. My first reaction is it's clutching at straws. They couldn't detect the biosignatures, say, in the atmospheres of these so-called putative, like habitat planets. And so they've given up on that approach. And now they're looking for similarities between planets, making the assumption that some advanced alien races may have terraformed these planets, and sort of it's sort of a macro scale approach rather than the fine detail that they were once searching for.
That's a great point, and what I noticed just glancing through the article, it's full of fuzzy words, of magic words. So what if a distant alien civilization? Terraforming would likely lead to many worlds, while this potentially widens the target for hunting. But then they have to admit in one of these points, said, but we're still limited because we don't understand how life could form in the first place. Talk about panspermia and how that actually doesn't answer the question of the origin of life.
Well, it's the old regression problem, isn't it? If you can't explain where life came from on Earth, you then go out into space and you say, well, maybe aliens seeded life here in the first place. But then you have the problem of where did that life come from? And it's that infinite regression problem. You never get down to the real original source of the origin of life, which they admit in that paper. They have to make some very large assumptions about, because outside of the biblical creation record, in the Genesis record, there is no naturalistic explanation for the origin of life.
Well, exactly. A major hurdle in accepting the claim that they're making is the complexity of life's origins. And again, you said the article acknowledges it, but this approach, again, is very, very vague. And when it comes to abiogenesis, or life coming from non-life, that goes against scientific principles. So if it goes against scientific principles to believe that life can form naturally in the first place, then isn't that basically pseudoscience?
Absolutely. It's like I like to say, they talk about astrobiology, but that's a fact-free science, because there is no evidence of life on other planets. I mean, extraterrestrial aliens don't exist. So how can you have a science based around that, And it's back to this problem, like you say, abiogenesis, no idea how life began, even on Earth in the, allegedly 4.2 billion years ago now, they say. No idea. So now they forget about that, and let's push out into space and look for similarities between planets and posit the idea that these aliens have terraform different planets. But the other problem is Darwinian evolution, the idea of mutation and natural selection as a mechanism for life to evolve, like on Earth. Well, they have that same problem, don't they, out there in the universe, because the paper is claiming that, it's not claiming, I should say, it's assuming that these aliens could exist. Well, I would make the argument they can't exist, because the 2 points, abiogenesis, origin of life just by random chance from biomolecules, and the modern construct of neo-Darwinian evolution, these two, these are insurmountable blocks to the whole idea. So it doesn't matter if it's in space or on Earth. You know, life cannot have a naturalistic origin. It's impossible.
So in other words, this paper is completely irrelevant except for to stir up popular ideas and to kind of capture our imaginations when it comes to aliens, because again, you have major hurdles to jump over before you could even start to talk about alien life. Talk about the philosophical and biblical inconsistencies of kind of a materialistic approach to the origin of life.
Well, this is again, the point I would say is that they don't understand what life is, because they seem to assume that life is just the product of the molecules, like the DNA, that the code, the DNA code, is written on the molecules in the genome, but the molecules themselves do not carry the code. The code had to be imposed upon those molecules by an intelligent mind. A perfect analogy is the concept of ink on a sheet of paper. When someone's writing on the paper, the molecules of the paper and ink do not carry the information that's on the page. And it's the intelligent mind that created the code, written text, that imposed that information. And that's the problem, that in fact, this is all naturalistic science. They don't get it. They never have. They believe just given sufficient time, information will spontaneously arise.
Yeah, huge assumptions, and it can. Okay, we have found through scientific research what appears to be several thousand extrasolar planets orbiting other stars, right? So we have several thousand possibilities that we know of for the potential of alien life or terraforming or whatever you want to call that. But just let's assume hypothetically that this study's conclusions are correct and we do discover evidence of aliens terraforming different planets. What would be the broader implications for humanity's understanding of its place in the cosmos, and does it somehow degrade the Earth as a less special place to be?
That would be the argument that they're making here. I would claim even if they found planets clustering in certain regions of space that have similar properties, gases in the atmosphere, size, density, distance from their sun in the habitable zone, that sort of thing, that is still no argument to support life, because it's still ignoring the elephant in the kitchen, the whole problem of what life is in the first place. And I don't see, from a biblical perspective, a believer in the Genesis history, it has no bearing. It's irrelevant, actually. But in the unbelieving mindset, in their world, it's sort of a justification that life may exist out there in the universe. It's really the attempt to supplant God, the creator, to get rid of him and say, well, no, we don't need a creator because life has arisen out there in the universe. It arose here on Earth 5 billion years ago, or 4.5 billion years ago now. Therefore, it, by the same logic, must have arisen elsewhere in the universe. But it's flawed logic, because it completely ignores the elephant in the kitchen, which is life itself. What is life? And how does it, where did life come from?
Absolutely. As a credentialed scholar, you have done a lot of research in this and come away with the conclusion that life is very complex, and it points us back to a designer. I believe, obviously, that designer is the God of the Bible. Dr. Hartnett, thank you so much for joining us today, and I would love to have you back on in the future.
Thank you. Well, yeah, I'd love to come back. Yeah.
And that's it for today. I want to thank you for joining us on the Genesis Science Report. Until next week, keep looking up. I'm David Rives. Truly, the heavens declare the glory of God.